Evening. I'm Spot on Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler, and welcome to my latest video. Now, I did an initial winter storm alert video on Friday. That would be Friday the 14th, Valentine's Day. And now, let's see I'm going to show you kind of like what's transpired over the last 48 hours since Friday's video. And so we're going to call this the winter storm alert update for the 19th and 20th of February. Overview for tonight's video, there is a potential that continues to actually increase. This potential is increasing over the last 2 days for a winter storm, the 19 to 20 February 2025 time period. Uncertainty is still going to be here right now at this juncture. I mean, we're still 3 days out from the storm, but the confidence levels are increasing with the modeling the closer we get to this event. We still do have some room for some modeling fine-tuning. And what I mean by that is I'm not expecting major jumps or changes in the track. I think the models are all pretty much locked in and aligned fairly well at this point. But there still could be some slight shifts northwest and southeast of the storm track just by some smaller distances. And that could have a huge impact or bearing on the storm and who gets snow and who gets mixed rain and snow and who gets all snow. The rain-snow line is always a factor we must take into account if you live in the Hampton Roads, Virginia area. I mean, it's there at almost every storm. It doesn't matter how big of a storm it is, how small of a storm it is, or weak of a storm it is, how strong or weak it is. That rain-snow line likes to set up generally between Outer Banks and Hampton Roads in many cases. And we still are looking at a potentially significant snowfall accumulations north of wherever that rain-snow line sets up. Mixture of snow and rain along the rain-snow line itself, which, you're going to have good snow accumulations north of the rain-snow line. You're going to have lower snowfall accumulations because of mixing of rain and snow right along that line, and then just a cold plain rain south of the rain-snow line with no snowfall accumulations. And with these type of storm systems, and I've watched this over time, there's a very distinct fine line between somebody who just gets rain and somebody who just gets hammered with higher snow totals. It's a very short horizontal distance when we have any type of cyclones off the coast that really intensify over short time periods. I can think back to the January 2018 storm as an example. The storm track and position of the cold high pressure still. That cold high pressure, the Arctic high to the northwest, will be funneling the cold air into the system. The storm track itself, so critical. How close to the coast is it? How far offshore is it? That's going to really determine the precipitation type for our area for this event. So let's examine. What I did is I've saved everything since Friday, since my Friday video, the model data. Let's go ahead and examine this European model 500 millibar steering profile. And why is this profile so important is because it steers wherever that surface low develops, it steers where it ends up or where it goes. So over here on the far left, I'm showing you the European 500 millibar forecast for this is cyclonic relative vorticity as well as geopotential height and wind velocity. And this was issued midday on Friday the 14th of February. We have a closed upper low situated over eastern Iowa. The middle graphic shows the forecast that was released yesterday for the same parameters, generally showing a more stretched out closed low, not as compact or not as intense on yesterday's European, the 12Z European run. And you see it's kind of stretched out across Iowa, Minnesota, and eastern Dakotas. And now over here on the far right, we see today's 12Z European model run. For the closed low now is consolidated over northern Illinois. So in just 3 days, you can clearly see how the upper level features at 500 millibars really have changed on the 12. These are all 12Z European model runs. 14th left on the left, 15th yesterday in the middle, and then today on the right. So nice comparisons here. We generally have the vorticity dropping into the trough, the shortwave trough. But where does this upper level low set up? How strong or compact will it be? Will really determine how the storm moves Does it move straight east-northeast out to sea, or kind of go up the coast a little bit before going out to sea? Let's examine the GFS 500 millibar steering profile now, and these are all 12Z GFS model runs the last 3 days. The 14th of February on the left here. On the 14th, we saw more of an elongated closed upper level low stretching from eastern South Dakota through Minnesota and Wisconsin into the Great Lakes area. Yesterday's model run for the GFS here in the middle showing a little bit tighter or more compact upper level closed low. Not really like significant difference, but it's still there nonetheless. A closed upper low stretching across the Dakotas and western Minnesota. And then over here on the far right is today's 12Z run for the 16th of February. Really showing an elongated, stretched out upper level low on the GFS as well. The bottom line here is the weaker this upper level low is, the greater the probability this storm remains suppressed and heads out to sea. The more tight or compact the upper level closed low is at the 500 millibars, the greater the probability this trough digs deeper and you get a storm that goes up the coast. Now let's examine some of the modeling here, the 1,500 millibar thickness, the modeling. All right, and I'm doing a comparison. The valid time on all three of these graphics is for 00Z 20 February 2025, which is, that would be Wednesday evening at about 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Graphic here on the left is the 00Z run on the icon for, let's see, this was issued on the 14th of February, showing snow overspreading Virginia, and we have rain south of it. The middle graphic shows now we have a surface low generally off the outer banks in the middle graphic here with a heavier band of snow. The trends have been heavier for the snow on the icon north of the surface low as this thing deepens, as the low pressure deepens. So we got snow into Virginia. And then over here on the right, we have, this is today's 18Z. This just came out literally a couple hours ago, showing heavier snow across southeast Virginia, southern Virginia as a whole, with a mix over parts of North Carolina. The surface low is generally to the, just right off Wilmington actually, there off the North Carolina coast. Let's examine the GFS model forecast now. The valid time, 00Z 20 February 2025, so again about 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday evening. This is the 06Z GFS run that was issued on the 14th of February. You clearly see that we have some rain pushing up into Hampton Roads. We have ice back to the northwest of that in the pink color, and then the snow is further north towards the Delmarva Eastern Shores area, back towards Richmond as well. This was the forecast issued on the 14th of February over here on the right. We see the coldest core, the coldest air there back over the central U.S. and Midwest. It is colder in the Virginia and the Carolinas, but it's not super cold. Let's continue here. Now let's look at the GFS model forecast that was issued yesterday. Now we got a little bit more of an intense storm system developing. We got heavier precip on yesterday's 18Z model run from GFS. We got mix going into Hampton Roads, and we got heavier snow up towards DC, southern PA, parts of western Virginia, into parts of eastern Tennessee. Over here, and by the way, the low pressure on this run from yesterday, the 18Z run yesterday evening for GFS, shows a 1,007 millibar low situated just to the southeast of South Carolina. We got a 1045 high situated to the northwest. And here are the temperature anomalies at 2 meters showing a colder look. Notice the purple colors now across Virginia into the Carolinas. That has been one of the bigger changes over the last 2 days. We are seeing trends of modeling to be colder across Virginia and the Carolinas. Here is the latest 18Z run from today, this evening, the 16th of February. And I'm going to cycle back and forth through these towards the end. I'm going to kind of show you the differences in the modeling. We'll compare them. I'll go back and forth through the slides so you can get a look to see how things have trended. But in general, 18Z, this is again for Wednesday evening about 7 p.m. Showing low pressure. It's a little bit, looks like a little bit weaker, 1011 millibar low, position to the southeast of South Carolina. And we got a mix nosing north into Hampton Roads, and then snow just north of that into parts of central Virginia, as well as the eastern shore and Delmarva area. And the cold air continues to remain in place. The anomaly is much below normal in that purple shading for eastern Virginia down through the Carolinas. All right, so let's just examine this briefly, okay? I'm going to go do some comparisons. So this was the forecast issued Friday. Just focus on this area here. We had a 1,006 millibar low southeast of South Carolina. Notice how the rain, the warm nose was a little bit stronger on the model runs for the GFS on Friday the 14th, a couple days ago. Now look at it, okay? Now it's become more of a mixed situation for Hampton Roads. And now look at this for this evening. Remains a mixed situation in Hampton Roads. The low pressure generally hasn't changed. It might have been slightly further north on the GFS 06E model issued on the 14th of February. But now it's pretty much locking in with the low pressure development by 00Z on the 20th of February or Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. local time off just southeast of South Carolina. Now look at the graphic here on the right again, the 2-meter temperature anomalies. Purple, pink means much colder anomalies. So Friday we just had below normal anomalies across eastern Virginia to the Carolinas. And then yesterday it really started changing the GFS towards a colder solution. Now we have purples pretty much nestled into southeast Virginia and the Carolinas the last 2 days of model runs in the GFS. If we look at the forecast soundings, this is very important to examine. We need to look at what's going on above the surface of the Earth as far as the types of wintry precip you'll get. Now I want you to focus in on, I'm going to draw it out for you right here. Let me get my pen out. Okay. So this line right here is your 0 degrees Celsius line. Yeah, by the way, the red line on these vertical forecast soundings is the temperature, and the green line is the dew point. So the closer these two lines are, if they're on top of each other, that means we have 100% saturation. It's a very moist environment. Now, if this red temperature line gets to the right of this 0 Celsius line, that means we have a warm elevated layer, an area above the surface that is above freezing, and the thicker that elevated warm layer is, the area above freezing above the ground, the thicker that layer is, the greater the probability we'll have a mixed precip or even a cold rain. In all cases here, in each of these soundings, starting with the one on the left, GFS forecast, most recent here from this evening, 00Z, okay? This graphic on the left is for 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the 19th, Wednesday evening. Notice that your line here, I'm going to go ahead and erase that so you can see it better. Let's see here. Let me erase this so you can see it. I know these red colors. Okay. Notice how let me do the pen again here. Right here, you notice at about just above, right around 800 millibars above the ground, we are seeing that temperature line get awfully close to going to the right of this freezing line. That would indicate the potential for elevated warm layer. Now that's at 00Z, and then we move on in the middle graphic here, and we're looking at 06Z. So that's 1 a.m. Notice that it's now getting colder aloft, and that might be this whole profile in the vertical stays to the left of your freezing line. So that would indicate all snow at that point. So this one over here by Wednesday evening, gosh, that is a bad M. Please apologize for that. That's a mix. This one over here in the middle would be snow. I'll just make an S. And this one on the right would be snow. So the middle graphic here is for 1 a.m. Eastern Time into Thursday morning, and the one on the right here is for 7 a.m. Eastern Time. And the vertical soundings are below freezing at 06Z, 1 a.m., right on through 7 a.m. Eastern Time. But they're awfully close. That elevated warm layer, maybe a warm nose, is trying to poke in, according to GFS, around 7 p.m. Wednesday evening. And that could result in a mix, perhaps snow mix with sleet. Let's continue. Canadian model forecast. Let's look at the last 3 days of those forecasts. This is for 00Z, again, 20th February, so 7 p.m. Wednesday evening, the 19th of February. Really no precip moving in just yet. This was the 00Z Canadian issued. This would have been on the 14th of February, so nothing coming in yet. It's kind of gathering steam, all the precip to the southwest. Here's the temperature anomalies issued on the 14th of February from the European model. Notice you have some colder readings, but it's not really as cold. Now let's continue. This is the Canadian forecast issued yesterday for the issued on the 15th. This is 12Z issued on the 15th. Notice now, for that same time period, it moves snow into southeast Virginia and far northeast North Carolina with a mix south of it in that pink area. And also notice how the Canadian has trended colder as well in the forecast issued yesterday. Look at this peak light purple color. See that? How there's none there that was issued on the 14th for that time period for Wednesday evening. And now it's colder again. And that colder air just got even colder just in basically inland of the Hampton Roads area across southeast Virginia and northeast North Carolina. On this is today's 12Z Canadian run. And look at, we got darker blue showing up across southeast Virginia and far northeast North Carolina, which would indicate snow on Wednesday evening. We have the mix, though, not far away, just south of that snow. Now let's examine the European model. Let's see here. The European model has been stronger. This is the forecast issued by the European model. This would be yesterday, the 15th, right? Oh wait, we got to go back. I'm sorry, I skipped. This is the 14th. This was the European forecast, the 00Z run from the 14th of February for Wednesday evening, the 19th of February. Notice where the low is. It's just barely offshore of South Carolina. We got some rain, warm nose poking up into Hampton Roads. This was the European model run from 14th of February. Blue is all the snow to the north of Hampton Roads and back to northwest, Shenandoah Valley, Charlottesville, Richmond. Over here on the right, 2-meter temperature anomalies that was issued by the 00Z European run. Purple color indicating colder anomalies. Now this is the European model that was issued yesterday. This is the 18Z European from yesterday evening. Notice how this blue color got darker. All right, so this is indicating a much more intense system. Dark blue indicating heavier snow into southeast Virginia and southern Virginia as a whole, and into parts of north central North Carolina. The low used to be closer to the coast on the 14th, is now further southeast, 1,000 millibars by Wednesday evening, the 19th of February. Over here on the right shows the 2-meter temperature anomalies, much colder look overall. Let's compare. See the light purple color here over Virginia, North Carolina. This was the European run issued on the 14th of February. Now the 15th of February, look how more widespread the purples are getting. And then this is today's run. Much colder air in place across southeast Virginia, southern Virginia, into North Carolina. And then this low pressure on Wednesday evening has trended back closer to just off the South Carolina coast. Heavy snow occurring in Hampton Roads on Wednesday evening with the rain snow line just south of the state line, the Virginia state line, into North Carolina. Here's European forecast soundings. This is from the 12Z European model run today. Remember, this dashed black line, diagonal line, indicates 0 degrees Celsius. That is, if this red line, your temperature line, is to the left of this 0 degrees Celsius diagonal dash line, that means we have a temperature profile on the vertical which remains below freezing. This one on the left is showing this is the forecast for Wednesday evening at 1900, showing a surface temperature at 27 degrees Fahrenheit. And yes, it does get close at around 850 millibars, where your temperature almost goes to the right of your freezing line there, which would indicate a little bit of elevated warm layer. But I don't think, unless this trends differently here over the next couple of days, as of right now, this is not a significant, hey, this thing's going to really protrude to the right of the freezing line here at 850. It's almost touching it, but it doesn't quite go to the right. So this would indicate, pretty much all snow. There might be some occasional mixing in if this was the case. Over here on the right, or in the middle, we have 03Z for the European. This is 03Z February 20th. That would be 10 p.m. on Wednesday night, showing again the red line touching that 0 Celsius line. So again, we could see some mixing issues with the snow there for Hampton Roads. The sounding is for like around the Norfolk area. And then by the time we get to 060, 1 a.m., it goes completely all over to snow again. And it could be heavy because this low pressure is going to be offshore and really strengthening. So I expect, and I'll tell you what I expect at the end, but let's just continue. Here's the model snowfall forecasts. Now this was a European model run. I'm showing you 00Z on the 14th of February forecast versus 12Z 14th February on the right. And look at the highest amounts of the overnight run on the 14th of February. We're well to the northwest. DC, right on into Baltimore area, into Northern Virginia, right on down towards Shenandoah Valley, Charlottesville, and Richmond. Much lesser amounts over Hampton Roads. This was Friday's model run from the European. Over here on the right, we now move it to 24 hours later. I'm sorry, no, this is 12Z on the 14th. And notice it's generally about the same, the forecast from the European for snow amounts, about 5 inches for Hampton Roads, as it was overnight on the 14th. Heaviest snow still remaining back to the northwest. And then this is the forecast issued for the 15th of February. Notice overnight run on 15 February really pushed the rain snow line back to the northwest, and really only a couple inches if you're lucky in Hampton Roads. That was from the 00Z 15 February European forecast, and the heaviest snow was well to the northwest, including way up northwest to Pennsylvania and Jersey and Delmarva. Over here on the right, though, look what happened yesterday at the 12Z run, and this is when things started shifting southeast on the European. The 12Z run on the 15th of February yesterday. We went from nearly nothing to maybe a coating to 2 inches in Hampton Roads from the overnight run on the 15th of February, the European, to 8 to 10 inches yesterday's midday run. And notice how the pink colors, the heavier amounts, have shifted southeast. Now today, what's going on today? Well, this was the overnight run, overnight last night, 13 to 14 inches of snow across Hampton Roads. And there's a sharp cutoff of that northwest edge of the snow, the heaviest snow. Still, pretty good amount of snow for Richmond, around 16 inches. So this is a pretty good Southeast Virginia snow event, including Hampton Roads. Over here on the right, that area of heaviest snow really diminished, especially on the northwest side of it. This is the 12Z run here on the right, and it is more concentrated from Richmond southeast to Hampton Roads, and that's it, and into parts of northern North Carolina. 16 inches of snow for Hampton Roads, according to the 12Z model run today. So let's go back and look at this now. So 00Z 14 February forecast, 4 inches Hampton Roads, and look where the heaviest was. Here's 12Z 14 February, heaviest amount still well to the northwest of Hampton Roads. Then look at this, rain snow line, big change there, 00Z 15 February run, 1 to 2 inches as of yesterday morning for Hampton Roads, and much heavier to the northwest, including Baltimore, DC, up into Philly and eastern Pennsylvania. And now 12Z today, look at this. It shifted back southeast. So northwest, heaviest bands, northwest of Hampton Roads, really still northwest of Hampton Roads, northwest of Hampton Roads, and then boom, the Euro cave south. Yeah, cave south yesterday midday runs, heavier amounts down to Hampton Roads, and then this is today. Heavy amounts in Hampton Roads, heavy amounts in Hampton Roads. I mean, it looks like it's focusing on the Hampton Roads. GFS showing this was the 14 February model runs. The left is 00Z, the right is 12Z. Generally keeping the heaviest snow in line with the European back to the northwest of Hampton Roads. And you can clearly see the amounts are pretty significant. I mean, 7 to 12 inches on the 12Z 14 February GFS run, and just lighter snowfall accumulations for Hampton Roads due to mixing issues. This is yesterday's model run on the GFS, showing the heaviest amounts still remaining back to the northwest of Hampton Roads and interior parts of southern Virginia. Over here on the right was this was the 18Z GFS run last night, showing 6 to 7 inches of snow in Hampton Roads. So you notice the trend in GFS. It got colder yesterday between the midday run and the evening run, and the heavier amounts slid southeast, similar to the European. Now, if we look at this is the 12Z run today, and the bullseye is strictly over Hampton Roads, with lesser amounts back to the northwest. That is a big change. And then the heaviest snow remains over Hampton Roads on the 18Z this evening. So all these models are showing similar trends since Friday's model runs. Heaviest snow was well back to the northwest inland of Hampton Roads on Friday, and then it started definitely by yesterday evening. Both the European GFS had this heavier snow going towards coastal southeast Virginia, and then today that trend continued, and it helped. All right, Canadian model forecast. This is for the 14th of February. A sharp cutoff to the southern end of the rain snow line here. This was overnight run Canadian on the 14th. Look at the green color. Heaviest inland of Hampton roads. And then this over here on the right is a Canadian 12Z run from the 14th of February. The rain snow line shifted back to the northwest. You can clearly see the storm track shifted northwest between the 00Z and the 12Z runs on the 14th of February in the Canadian. And then look at this. This is yesterday's model run, 00Z Canadian yesterday, showing that rain snow line again shifts back up to the north. Even further to the north. Let me go back here. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Okay. So you see here, 00Z 15 February Canadian run had no snow accumulations in Hampton roads. And the heaviest snow went all the way back to Winchester, went back into western Virginia, went into Maryland, central and western Maryland, up into Pennsylvania. Now the GEM and 12Z yesterday brought some of that heavier snow southeast, like the other two European and GFS models, and then it really brought it southeast on the overnight run last night. I mean, this is a considerable jump from nothing over Hampton roads at 00Z run yesterday to almost a foot of snow by the overnight runs last night into this morning, and it's held 12Z. It's held the heaviest snow across Hampton roads, maybe up into parts of Eastern Shore and then out over the water. Here's the German Icon model snowfall forecast. This was 00Z run here on the left for the 14th of February, showing about 6 to 7 inches across Hampton roads. But the heaviest snow again was further inland away from the southeast Virginia coast. This was the 14th of February 12Z Icon run, showing very light accumulations pretty much across much of Virginia. So I really didn't trust this model when I saw it on Friday because it was the outlier. It only shows 2 to 3 inches into Richmond and into northern Virginia. I didn't buy it. Now this was the Icon 12Z model run from yesterday, showing again, it started increasing snow amounts, but mainly to the north, up towards Maryland, Delaware, and Jersey. Lighter amounts to the south across southern Virginia. The Icon 18Z last night, very similar. Didn't really change a lot. Kept the heaviest amounts to our north of Hampton roads. And then we get to the Icon today at 12Z, and it centers a bullseye of heaviest snow over Hampton roads in southeast Virginia. And at 18Z here on the right, it shifted the heaviest amounts, like a foot of snow, further inland a bit. So it shifted a little bit to the northwest on the Icon from 12Z to 18Z. All right, but not significantly. All right, so in summary, what does this all mean? Winter storm is looking really likely. I mean, there's no sugarcoating this. The 19th and 20th of February. The precipitation will start Wednesday afternoon, the 19th of February. It'll persist into early Thursday AM, Thursday morning, the 20th. Based on the track and the speed of this storm. Now, the storm is going to intensify off the Carolina coast Wednesday night. It's going to intensify. The question really is the speed of the storm. The storm seems to be, with each progressive model run, seems to be speeding up a little bit quicker. So that would mean that the precip will come to end sooner on Thursday morning, the 20th. So when I say winter storm, likely 19 to 20 Feb, we might really be focused on the 19th if the trend and the speeding up of the storm continues. But the precip is going to start off Wednesday afternoon, and it's going to get heavier overnight Wednesday night. That storm is going to be right off the coast of Virginia, and you're going to get some strong northerly winds, you're going to get some heavier rates of precipitation as well. Now, models have come into better agreement regarding the storm track and the intensity over the past 24 hours. I was amazed last night, starting at the 00Z runs. I mean, it was almost identical, the heaviest snow where it would fall. It was really impressive to see that. Now, there's still uncertainty regarding the placement of that rain snow line, and that is going to have huge implications on snowfall accumulations. The multiple possibilities for Hampton roads, I think, I do have another slide after this. I'm gonna cover these multiple possibilities for Hampton roads, okay? So right now, these are the possibilities of what may happen. Rain at onset, then turning to wintry mix and all snow. If this were to be the case, there may be limited snowfall accumulations because of a wet ground. But I really don't see this as a plausible thing here. All right, so let me go ahead and mark this. I don't think, I'm going to put a line through it. I really don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to start as rain at the beginning. I think it's going to start as snow. Let's continue to examine the possibilities though. We could see a mix of rain and snow during the majority of the storm with no accumulations. Again, I think that's least likely though. I don't think that's going to happen either. So I'm gonna put a line through it, okay? Now, will the other possibility of a start as snow, go to a wintry mix and back to snow? I still like that possibility. I think this one right here for Hampton Roads is probably going, I'm leaning towards this right now, totally. Starting off as snow Wednesday afternoon into early Wednesday evening, then you got it becoming wintry mix. So that would be like a snow mixed with sleet, or maybe some snow, sleet, and rain mixed together. And then I think it's going to go back to snow, and it could be fairly moderate on the storm's backside as that storm intensifies offshore. This is really, the backside snow is really going to be dependent on how close of a storm track we see. The other possibility is a brief rain, then heavier snow accumulations. I don't think it's going to start as a rain at all. Cold rain overall, I don't see that either. So if I'm, just examining the models today, I really believe for Hampton Roads, it'll start as snow Wednesday afternoon, and then it'll go over that wintry mix, then back to snow overnight Wednesday night. Now, what we do know right now is wintry precip is looking more likely for the Hampton Roads, Southeast Virginia area. Again, start as a snow Wednesday, transition to a mix of sleet or freezing rain with the snow Wednesday evening, and then back to potentially moderate to heavy snow overnight Wednesday night into very early Thursday AM. Now, when I say early Thursday AM here, I'm talking around sunrise. I can see based on the speeding up of the storm, all the precip may be offshore around sunrise on Thursday. But I really do believe that it'll start as all snow based on the temperature profiles in the atmosphere, then transition to a potential mix of sleet or freezing rain as elevated warm layer tries to creep in at about 850 millibars, or about 2,500 feet to 5,000 feet above our heads. A shallow elevated warm layer, not very thick. The European model continues to show the heaviest snowfall accumulations with mainly snow throughout the storm. It's gotten colder over the last day, definitely, and is showing more in the way of snow and keeping the rain-snow line more to the south of Hampton Roads. That's what the European model is showing, because it's stronger, and the intensity of the storm matters, because the stronger it is, the stronger the northerly winds will blow on the backside of it, and that's why it's showing mainly snow throughout the storm. And the European would definitely have the heaviest snow accumulations if it were to verify. The GFS model shows more mixing, less snowfall accumulations, while the ICON is showing moderate snowfall accumulations, more like 3 to 6 inches for Hampton Roads. GFS is more along the lines of maybe 2 to 5 inches. European is much heavier, 6 inches plus. Now the NAM model, I want to make a point about the NAM model. Now, yes, the NAM model is a higher resolution model. So it should pick up on the smaller thermodynamic details, what's your temperature profile with height above the ground. But it's terrible outside of 60 hours. It does better when it gets within 60 hours of event. So if you see social media posts talking about the NAM, hey, I'm looking at the NAM tonight, and we're talking about outside the 60-hour window for Wednesday night right now for the NAM model. So I kind of take NAM with a grain of salt, is what I'm saying. There is going to be an event where the rain-snow line sets up is still the key factor. What's the storm track? I talked about on Friday about, hey, let's look at these. Here, let's go. All right. I talked about the importance of this Arctic high pressure back in the northwest. It's really, really important. Where is it setting up? Now, this was Friday GFS, this was Saturday GFS, and now it's a little further southeast over North Dakota today on the GFS runs. Let's look at the Canadian model from the 14th Friday. The Arctic high was well back to the northwest. Still, yesterday's model runs the Canadian still well back to the northwest. And then today it moves slightly east, but not much. Let's examine the European. Look at this. This was 1049 high, Arctic high over South Dakota on the European on Friday's model run. Saturday, it starts ridging a little more southeast towards the Midwest. Notice these blue dash lines, these thickness lines, they're dipping towards the southeast or orientated toward the southeast. All right, so that's a little farther southeast on that Arctic high for the European run. And then today, look at this. Look where the high is. It's over eastern Nebraska. The Arctic high at 1046 millibars. So that's very important because, again, that high is the source of allowing northerly winds and Arctic air, the colder air, to be in place as this precip gets thrown on the, basically the precip's getting thrown on over the top of this colder, denser at the surface. And that's what's really resulting in this wintry precip. These soundings are very important. And again, you look at GFS, all right, you're looking for this red line to be to the right of the 0 Celsius line, the freezing line, at any point in the vertical profile. This is a forecast sounding. All right, you see it touching, that temperature line is touching that 0 Celsius line at around 800 millibars. Okay, just above 5,000 feet. This is Wednesday evening. Again, it touches the line right around on the GFS 1 a.m. And then it definitely gets much colder after that as the winds shift to the north behind that deepening low pressure offshore. And then this is the European soundings. They're very similar. I mean, they're not very different. The GFS, the European soundings with height, you are having warming with height here. You can see it clearly here. You have inversion setting up. But that red temperature line is not getting anywhere to the right of the 0 Celsius line. That's the key. The more shallow this elevated warm layer is, the greater the probability you're going to have sleet or snow. And then again, just looking at the trends, the heaviest snowfall amounts on the European have trended towards Southeast Virginia and Hampton Roads. Very similar here in the GFS model, and then the Canadian as well, specifically today's runs. Overnight run last night and today's 12Z run. And that is all I got, everybody. This is a dynamic situation here, of course. I like where the models are heading here, but I'm still always leery of, mixed precip getting into Hampton Roads areas. I'm really leery of that. I don't know if I necessarily trust the European model being all snow, but I think it starts to snow Wednesday afternoon into early evening. Then we'll have some mixing getting involved Wednesday night. And then I think it turns back over to a solid snow. Now, the snowfall accumulations will really be dependent on how much mixing occurs. I mean, let's face it. The longer you have mixing, the less the snowfall accumulations are going to be. The less mixing you have, and if it's all snow, obviously it's going to have greater snowfall accumulations. We have a couple days before the storm on Monday and Tuesday, tomorrow and Tuesday, where we're going to have colder air in place. We have the front move through this afternoon, the cold front, and now temperatures are going to drop overnight tonight, and it'll be much colder tomorrow with highs in the 40s across Hampton Roads, dropping down to around 30 tomorrow night into Tuesday morning, then back into the 40s on Tuesday, dropping again back to 28 to 30 degrees on Wednesday morning. And then, let me show you this before we go. I want to show you one more thing, what temperature forecasts are looking like. Let me see if I can go to this. This is the latest GFS 13 kilometer. This is temperature forecasts for Norfolk, Virginia. Look at this. I mean, we're looking at 31 on the GFS for a forecast high on Wednesday, 32 for Thursday, 33 for Friday. And then down here at the bottom, you've got the accumulated snow from the GFS 18Z model, which is running 5 to 7 inches. So GFS is forecasting 5 to 7 inches from the 18Z run. And then let me see if I can get this to work. Not working for me. Oh, there we go. This is a European 9 kilometer high resolution model, and look at the temperatures. I mean, very similar to the GFS. Look how cold this is. This has really dropped off over the last couple days. Friday the 14th, this output was much milder. I mean, let's look at the 14th here. Look at this. 34 Wednesday, 46 Thursday. Okay. Now let's look at 1512Z. Look how that dropped off on the European model. 39 now Wednesday, 31 Thursday for a high. And then today, midday, on the European. Look at this, 30 and 27. And now you understand why, the European's going more for snow than anything and less mixing. And then you look at here, the GFS, let's examine. 14th, this was the temperature forecast highs for the GFS, 38 Wednesday, 36 Thursday. Let's examine now yesterday's midday run. Look at the drop off. 37 Wednesday, 34 Thursday, and now let's look at today's. Low 30s, 32 to 33 degrees. So as you can see, GFS and European have continually got colder and colder and colder over the last 2 days. So that's all I got for now, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and until next time, take care and God bless everyone.